All right, welcome back to a day in the life of the asset manager and an underwriter. And today is the and an underwriter portion of it all. So we are going to talk a little bit about underwriting today. We've done this a couple of times so far. I've met with at least half of you talking about underwriting and kind of different ways to look at things. And so today I did want to just kind of open it up to any questions that we have. And then if we don't have any questions or we get through them really quick, I have a whole other thing that we're going to talk about also. So don't feel bad if you don't have any questions. But, as you've gone through the underwriting process, because we are all students, right? So, like, I'm a student of underwriting. I will always be learning how to underwrite better and more often. And you're always going to learn, oh, those breakers, change everything. And, this thing impacts the insurance in a way that I didn't understand until this time. And so, yeah, what questions do you guys have? Let's have a conversation. David.
How do you solve the emotional hurt when you underwrote a property and it looked like it was a lousy deal, and then like 4 months later you see one of your buddies acquired it? How do you handle that? I must have done something wrong.
No, that's a great question because there's two different ways that you kind of that happens to you, right? Number one is you underwrite it and you're like, dude, this is a poo-poo property and I don't want it. And then somebody that you are close with and that you feel like has a good grasp of kind of the same thing that you do, and they go and get that property. And yeah, it's honestly the way that I look at it is like, man, I wouldn't have bought it. That's why I made that decision. So I think I dodged a bullet. I hope, and I really do hope that they did not make a mistake, right? I mean, really, that's how I look at it. And
Have you seen that happen before?
I have, yeah, I mean, realistically, there's two reasons why that wouldn't happen, right? Um, the first one is like if I look at a property and I, look at the statistics and it has a super high murder rate and all this stuff, like I'm going to just opt out of it. And then I've seen people go and buy it, and I'm like, it's not for me, but it's for them apparently, right? Because like it doesn't matter if you get it for $15,000 a door. Like I'm not going to take that property under my control. Um, so
Yeah,
there's that aspect of it. The other aspect is if you underwrite it and you're coming in like significantly less than asking price, um, and it's in a good area and it's a good property, you might as well throw an LOI in, right? And then you won't get awarded the LOI, but at least you threw your hat in the ring. If they wanted to come back and say, hey, best and final, or anything like that, there's definitely some play there. But if somebody won it over you, then they probably paid more than you did. And I just hope that they didn't make a mistake. And I truly do wish them the best, that they are successful with it, because I don't see the vision, right?
Yeah, it's funny. It's the question's a little bit tongue in cheek because the reality is it's a market I wasn't really interested in.
Yeah.
But I did spend, a couple hours on it going through it. And there's some things I just didn't like about the property anyway. So it was kind of the one-two punch. But
Yep.
part of me wants to call them and say, hey, what'd you see? I looked at this. I didn't do it. What do you like about it? What are you doing? But on the other hand, I don't. But
Well,
it did hurt a little bit.
there's literally no harm in calling them and saying, "Hey, I saw that you won this deal. I was actually underwriting that. Do you mind if we chat for like 30 minutes? I was looking at it. I saw a couple of things. I want to understand your mentality, your process of how you're going to do that. There's no issue with that. Do it. Only good things would come from that.
We actually had that
Love that. Thanks, Tyler.
Yeah.
one on a deal that we didn't even know we were up against. And so afterwards, he told us, hey, I was, trying to buy that property. And I'm like, I wish you would have called us. We would have included him. I mean, it's so sometimes if you find out beforehand that people, if you're going for the same property, don't go against, go with, just join forces with them. So I told that guy, I regret that he never did, call us and say, hey, what are you doing? Can I help out in some way, or I'm trying to get it. And it was interesting because in the end I found out that we had the same sponsor And I was just like, I don't know why the sponsor didn't tell us. Like, you're up against another student. Um, are you interested in talking to that student? I mean, I wish we would have been at least given that opportunity, because we would have said, absolutely, let's talk with them. Let's see if we can collaborate. So,
Yep.
my 2 cents.
David, are you having audio issues with just Cindy or with myself also?
Mostly you, a little bit Cindy. I think it's just me. I was just asking if it's everybody or just me.
Oh,
I'm not
okay.
having problems.
Yeah, I got
Okay, it's
that.
just me.
On my
I'm
end.
sorry.
Okay, and then yeah, the other let's address the other elephant in the room, right? So the second pain that you have as an underwriter is when you have a deal that you're excited about. It looks great on paper. You've spent all this time underwriting it, and you take it to your KP, and they're like, "Hey, we can't do it." For one reason or the other, right? Like you're in the middle of a current raise. The deal might be too big. It might be too small. It just depends. Like that's another form of like kind of a sting, right? Where you're like, I've put weeks of my life into making this thing as polished up as possible and getting it ready, and we have to say no, and that also hurts. So that's the other flip side of the coin, right? Of kind of that sting, and I don't really have a good answer for that one because it's like, man, this all looks good. This is what we're trying to do, and this is a great property that pens at this number, and we could have an accepted LOI. But the timing is not right for the group that you're working with, right? And you either need to try and find a different sponsor. And a lot of the times, if your sponsor tells you that they can't move forward with that deal, they should, if they're a good person, be able to try at least point you in the direction of someone who would be able to handle what you want to do. I know for us, like when we turn somebody down that we can't do their deal, or it's too small, or too big, or whatever, we at least say, hey, these people usually work with that style. Go chat with them. So yeah, so that was the first question. Anybody else have any other questions when it comes to underwriting?
I'll piggyback one last point on that first question. The other thing is they might not be hitting the same metrics that you are. So they may have a different perspective on what they're looking for or what they are wanting to accomplish with their communities, or like not everybody underwrites the exact same way or has the exact same vision. So
Yep. Yeah, not everybody wants to hit the same thresholds as you, right? Like we want to, as close as humanly possible, to always get to about a 20% ARR. And there are some people in this business that they think like a 12% ARR is acceptable for what their investors are looking for. So yeah, that's a good point, Lorik. Thank you. All right. Well, if there's no other questions, we're going to jump right into the other segment that we had planned today. But I'll give it about 5 more seconds if anybody wants to chime in.
got to beat the buzzer.
Okay, sounds good. Well, yeah, so the other thing that we want to talk to you today about is the last portion of underwriting before you underwrite it forever. Because that's the other problem with underwriting, is that it never stops. But that is when you submit an LOI, okay? And so hopefully everybody has had an opportunity to be able to submit an LOI before. If you haven't had an opportunity to submit an LOI, good news, we're going to kind of go over some of the things that go on with an LOI and what you should be looking at. So I am going to show you an LOI, or at least the template of said LOI. So this is High Caliber's template for an LOI. And when we are going to submit an LOI, there's a couple of things that we look at, and things that you should be aware of when you submit an LOI. So first off, when you are going to submit an LOI, you should have already been talking to your sponsor, right? So your sponsor should know exactly what property, how much you're submitting it for, where it's located, all the pros and cons of it, all that fun stuff. And as we've talked about before, your asset manager should be in those conversations too, because they should know what your business plan is. And if they agree that business plan is going to work and this is how I'm going to enact your business plan. But when we start looking at LOIs, right? So make sure that when you go to submit, you talk to your sponsor and you say, hey, do you have a template for an LOI? The reason that you do that is there is very, very specific verbiage in our LOI that we like to see and make sure that we have protections for ourselves and the rest of the GP team. If something does happen, we have the opportunity to back out, right? And like the goal is to always, if you have an accepted LOI, close that deal. And I'm here to brag for a second. At High Caliber, we are 8 for 8. 8 accepted LOIs, 8 closes, end of story. We're 100% closers. Now, that is a huge selling point for us to our brokers, right? If you pick us, right, we might not be the most, right? Most of the time, we are not going to offer the highest dollar. But if you pick us and you move forward, we're going to close that property and your seller and you are going to get paid. And that is actually a very, very large selling point for a lot of brokers. So if you work with us as sponsors, anytime you talk to your broker, make sure you mention that. We're 8 for 8, 100% closers. But we always want to have language in our LOI that has a protection for us as sponsors and also the rest of the GP team, right? Because you don't want to get too far into this and find something wonky and you're not able to back out and all your money goes hard and you end up losing hundreds of thousands of dollars. Nobody wants to be on the hook for hundreds of thousands of dollars without reasonable ways to be able to say, hey, you're not meeting the contractual agreement that we have to move forward with this. So again, ask your sponsor if they have a format for LOIs. And a lot of you guys have gone through some sort of education program, whether it's MFM or RE Mentor, and they gave you a blank template for an LOI. You'll notice that this is kind of an expansion off of that, but it does have quite a bit more that we put in here as far as protections for us through the whole process, right? So part of these LOIs, I'm just going to walk you through real quick kind of the highlights of the LOI, right? So we talk about purchase price. We always want to make sure that we're not buying it for something that we're not going to pay. This is a huge portion of one of the protections that we have. So we talk about the mortgage. We're buying it at X% interest rate and we're getting X amount percent financed. Why do you think those are important languages to have in here? This is usually where you guys unmute and then you say something. Otherwise, I can just talk to myself. I'm okay with that too.
What was the question?
Why do we have language in here specifically talking about when we obtain a mortgage, we are going to get it at X% interest rate and X%?
Oh, that's easy, because if you can't get it at the terms that you underwrote it out, your underwriting might not be valid, which gives you a wonky business plan and you need an out.
I agree, and that was kind of a layup question, so I'm glad you answered there. Yeah, so if you can't hit the terms that you underwrote it at, the stock market and the interest rate market and the bonds market are all fairly volatile right now, right? We could see a 0.5% dip in interest rates, and we could see a 0.5% increase in interest rates in a 2-month period. So we want to make sure that, hey, we underwrote this for a 5.5. So if we can't get 5.7 or better, there's no way that it's going to work out. And we always, again, we talked about this last time we talked about underwriting. We get a quote from our broker, from our mortgage broker, to see what the interest rate is going to come in at, what our LTV is going to be at, and all of the financial questions. So we already have a quote to be able to move forward with this. So pending any really traumatic experience, there's no reason why we should have to back out because of this. But this also is protecting us if we are trying to do if we're trying to do a loan and for some reason we're not able to qualify for agency debt. Right now, all of those terms are going to hit us and be like, hey, we just can't do it because we can't get agency debt. So that's why we have that language in here, right? So that's protection number one, is when we start talking about the mortgage. Protection two is kind of giving a time frame, and that's some of it's a protection, but most of it's just to let the seller know our intent, right? We're going to have this much time to do this, and we're going to have this much time to do this, because we want to be very cautious of kind of how we do things, but we also want to do things in a timely manner and let them know that we're not just going to, fart around for 9 months trying to close this property, and waste everybody's time. And so we always give them a time frame of all the stuff that we're going to do. And then we give them deadlines on what's happening, right? So like we give them deadlines on, we need the financial due diligence. We need every contract that you have, including every lease that you have, to be able to inspect those things. So then we give ourselves the due diligence period and the financing period. So we want to make sure that the loan closes. We always agree to a deposit, and you should talk to your sponsor to see how much the deposit is. But there are typical percentages to put down on an apartment when you are submitting an LOI. But at one point they get a little bit too big and you need to kind of back them off. So always have a conversation with your sponsor about the deposit. Title policy, so we just need to make sure that all that goes down, but that's pretty common. And then closing. So we always have in here that the buyer has an opportunity to add extensions. And it's usually about $25,000 per 30-day extensions. Now, we have this in here just in case, right? In case we need to extend the time for capital raising, or in case we need to extend the time because we found something that was really bad on the property and we need to retrade and we need to make a different agreement than what we currently have because it was not disclosed. And that buys us a little bit more time. And sure, it is money to be able to do that, but it could potentially save you a lot of money in the end. Cindy, you physically raised your hand?
I did physically raise my hand because I don't know how to use the computer that well. One of the things is when you do have the funds to do an extension, like you paid the $25,000 for a 2-week extension, that money should go toward the purchase. So it's not extra money that you're paying, additional funds. It's not going to increase the price of what you're paying. That goes toward the purchase price.
Thanks for clarifying that, Cindy, because that was the question I actually had. Is that like, an additional fee on top of that? But it basically what it sounds like, it's just like more of like an earnest money that we put additionally thing if we ask for the extension, but then that we'll try to still make this happen with this in this time frame, but then it gets reapplied towards the overall purchase price.
Correct.
Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry,
Thank you.
I should have clarified. Yeah, deposit money in addition to it costs you money up front that you have to put more into the property, and then you have less of an incentive to back out if you start buying extensions. So
Then do we actually, for that particular verbiage in that section, should that be further clarified that it's like, because as it reads, maybe it's just me. I don't know if it's that's the understanding that it's not just an additional $25,000 extension fee. It's more so of like a additional earnest money to be applied towards purchase price afterwards.
To be applied toward purchase price.
she's asking if we need to change the verbiage in our LOI. We've never had anybody push back on that and say that we're going to pay them $25,000 cash to buy an extension. It's always been understood that it's going towards the purchase.
I personally would add it.
Yeah, because I read that in a, I would probably, if I were to push it, hold up in court, I'd be like, yeah, that technically is an extension fee, not a purchase price.
Well, hey, that's great. I'm going to go add that probably use Chat GPT to add that, to be honest. So it's get all lawyer speak in there. But yeah, again, this. We're always students, right? We're always trying to learn from other people, and nobody here is perfect, or at least that I'm aware of. No one's perfect. So
No,
yeah,
this is
definitely
great.
something to
No,
look
this I
at.
appreciate you sharing this because it gives us a live action of like, okay, these are kind of the thing, and it's so such a modular template as well too, because at any point it's customized based on the whoever the seller may be too, that you may need to negotiate and put additional verbiage that, it's applicable to the situation. So this is a really good example for us. Thank you.
Yeah. In fact, our most recent purchase of Oxford Point in Tyler, Texas, we had to add a second line here that said second mortgage for the supplemental that we were doing, because that had to hit certain benchmarks in order for us to be able to purchase it. And so, yeah, it's built out in a way that you should be able to add anything specific that you need for that particular property that you're purchasing. So, but yeah, that's the general feel of an LOI, right? And we need to go change some stuff on the LOI. So that is what I was going to talk about today with LOIs. So, have any of you guys submitted an LOI before? What have you seen from the submissions? Have you ever gotten feedback on your submission? Oh, sorry. I missed like the most important thing I was going to talk about. When you go to submit an LOI, everything's built out in Word so that you can change it, right? But you need to save it as a PDF and send it to the broker as a PDF, because you need documents that cannot be altered without like a lot of different stuff showing on there that it was altered, right? So you just want to make sure that you protect yourself, save it as a PDF before you send it. Sorry, yeah, so I'll go back to my question. Have you submitted an LOI? What feedback have you ever gotten? Do you feel like you have a strong LOI template? Are you working with a sponsor that has an LOI template? Kind of where are you guys at with all of that?
Can I add one more thing?
Yeah.
So I don't know if any of you have ever bought a home, but when you get ready to buy a home, the broker will have you write a little letter saying why you love this house. They'll have you put a picture of your family and the family dog and how this house is going to be perfect for your family. Well, you kind of do the same thing when you are putting in an LOI. So you're going to include your bio in the LOI with the LOI, because there's two different piles that the broker looks at initially. One with bios, one without. And you want to make sure you're the one with the bio. And then you might include with your bio just a small paragraph of why you're buying this property. For us, we wanted to be in Tyler, Texas. We knew that the property was, that the area was growing, and we felt like it was a community that we wanted to be a part of. So I would highly recommend that you send your bio and a photo. It just helps give personality and makes it personal whenever you submit an LOI.
Hey Cindy, what would you suggest would be a way to I just commented that like it's a great way to showcase credibility to the broker that you're an experienced team that can close. Like, hey, we have XYZ units in Charlotte, and this is one of those ones that we would love to be able to add on to our portfolio, whatever that may be. It has credibility. But for those that actually are newer into the syndication and don't quite have a portfolio like High Caliber, what would you suggest would be some other ways that we can showcase something like this?
Well, I would still, because like on ours, it does list all the different properties that we own and how many units. But so if I was a student and I was going to be partnering with High Caliber Multifamily, I might send my own bio, like the things that I have done, maybe in the secular world, I was the president of whatever, and I did this, and these are my hobbies. And I have chosen to partner with high caliber multifamily because of my skill set, which is blah, blah, blah. And I know that I bring value to the team. So I wouldn't shy away that, oh, I don't have anything to say about me and what I am doing or have done, because I haven't done it yet in multifamily, but I would talk about what I've done in the past and what I bring to the table with high caliber multifamily. Because you do. There's something that you're doing that's bringing it to the table.
Yeah,
Love it. Thank you.
and don't be afraid to lean on the experience of the sponsor, right? Like your sponsor should have something very similar to this, where they have some kind of bio that outlines how they do it, why they do it, where they do it, how many times they've done it. And yeah, like Cindy said, submit yours and say, this is why I've partnered with them. But you're really heavily lean on your sponsor at that point for the portfolio side.
Love the fact that you guys are showing examples. I know that was mentioned already, but thank you.
Yeah, of course.
One of those practical guys, and this like cements things for me.
Well, it helps to see it. It's kind of hard to visualize, like, what does that look like? And everyone has a different bio, um, you know, so this is just how we did it and how we listed our current portfolio. I know other people have done it different ways, but we chose to do it this way, mainly because we're a family business. And so we submit this with the husband, my husband and I, and then we also submit our family photos so they know that we're a family business. Yeah.
This one.
Yes. The one with the darling baby in the middle.
Who's like twice as big as that picture now.
Get a new picture now. We're gonna take a new picture like every 6 months.
It's a great family photo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that brings us to the half hour. Does anybody have any questions before we sign off?
Bye-bye.
Is there anything we missed in chat? Nope. All right.
All great information. Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys' insight and tips and tricks, as always.
Awesome. Well, it's great to have all you guys here. We appreciate you taking time out of your day to have these conversations, and hopefully we're bringing value to you and continuing to help you grow your business. So until next week, we'll see you guys then.